Hello everyone, welcome to this brief playthrough of Crisis 1914. I have it set up here for a two-player game with Austria-Hungary and Russia, so Count Berchtold and Sergei Sazonov, and I'm going to play it just myself, just to show you how it works running both of those players. So it's set up with we're just worrying about Vienna and St. Petersburg. By the way, this is all prototype artwork. This is not the finished production artwork by any means. This is just what I have to hand right now. So we're concerned about Vienna and St. Petersburg. We have placed these Belligerence trackers on the 0. We placed the calendar track on week 1. This turn track is on week 1. We have Berchtold in first place on the initiative track, Sazonov on second place on the track, and their score markers on 0 on the score track. Also placed a token on the 2 space for the investigations card, which changes value over the course of the game. We've got a draw deck made up for both sides, some cards removed, which the player boards specify which ones are removed. It's normally 3 for each side, and we've got a hand of 3 cards for each player. We've got no Italian support, which is a 0 for Berchtold, Albert von Mensdorf, which is also a 0, and a 3 of von Sturck, who is the Austrian Prime Minister. Anyway, first of all, we have to do the first draw card of the week, which for Berchtold is a 4, Pretoriac. So we place this in a 4. This is also an assertion and a momentum. Momentum, when you have 3 of those, the other player, in this case the other player, but the other enemy nations can no longer do certain actions. Assertion cards matter because they, if you have 4 of those under tableau, they help you. They will double your prestige score at the end of the week. And for Sazonov, we've got a 1. That's a consensus card. So the default number of cards that you can ever play to your tableau is 7. When you played 7, you have to pass. But if you have 2 consensus cards on your tableau, then you can play an additional 1. You can then play 8 cards. If you have 4 consensus cards, well, you can play an additional 2. In addition, if you ever have any national interests cards, those let you, one of those cards lets you play 1 extra card to your tablet. So now we're fully set up, and now we're probably into the first thing that players can actually choose to do. So there are 6 basic things that you can choose to do in your turn, and it's Count Berchtold's turn now. You have to pass, like I said, if you have played 7 cards to your tableau, unless you've got cards that let you play more. You may pass if you have 5 cards on your tableau. So we can't pass right now. So we're going to do one of the other 5 actions. Now, bearing in mind that what we're trying to do is score prestige points. Most prestige points at the end of the game wins the game. You score prestige points at the end of the week, and you see who's highest up here, who basically wins the week on this score track. You get 3 prestige points for being highest up here. And you get up here by playing these cards to your tableau. So you can see we've already got a value of 4. We've got a hand of not many high cards. We'll have other cards in this deck that will help us drive that forwards, drive that up the track. But once you get to 18, you also start acquiring tension. So to explain, the prestige points are tracked on these white dice, and they're not rolled. No dice are ever rolled here in this game. This dice is just this die face is just rotated around to track the current score. that's at the end of the week. Also at the end of the week, usually, but not always, is this taking stock of the amount of tension that you've generated. So if you score 18, 19 or 20 diplomatic pressure, regardless of whether you won the week or not, you're going to create plus one tension, 21 as well. And that tension is going to be placed in your city because you caused it, but it actually applies to the target nation. So this is tension that you are pushing onto St. Petersburg, that you are making Russia agitated. If this ever gets up to 6 at the end of during a score check phase, well then you've so aggravated Russia, you've so provoked them that they are going to mobilize. In this game, if you cause another nation to mobilize, you lose the game. It's your fault. You started the war. So you're trying to push your prestige up whilst you keep tension controlled. But as you'll see, it's hard to really drive your prestige very high unless you tolerate some risk. So you're going to need to be sort of mitigating that and strategizing how and where you apply pressure and how and where you dial it back. Anyway, back to these 6 choices that I can make, these 6 player choices. You just make one choice per turn. As I said, the pass is not available right now. We've not got 5 cards on our tableau which would allow us to pass. But in any case, we don't want to pass at this stage. We want to drive this further up. We could play a card from our hand. I know what those are, so I know I can play this 3, and this is going to go up to, this 4 is going to go up to 7. It's also an assertion, so if I can get 4 of those, I'm in good place. Alternatively, I could just play a card from the top of my deck. I don't know what that will be. I can kind of guess at it, but I have no real information about it right now, so that's risky. I could also play a deliberate action, which is to discard a card, place it in my discards, and pick up 3 cards from here, look at them all, play 1 to the tableau, and take the other 2 into my hand. I could reorganize, which is to discard a card and to look at the top 3 cards, put them in any order I like, and put them back down, and that's it for the turn. Or I could, it makes no sense, it's not really an available option for me right now, but if I were to discard 3 cards, I can I can become first on the initiative track. I can only do that if I'm equal to or higher than the person who's at the top of the track. That's me already, I've bet already, so I'm not going to do that. But why does it matter? Well, yes, it's to do with the turn sequence, but also when you get to the end of the week, whoever is top of this initiative track will score a prestige point. Whoever is bottom of this track has the option of offering a Congress step or a peace conference during the Congress step, which allows everyone to dial down their tension, and whoever offered that peace successfully acquires 1 prestige point themselves. Not often used, I would say, in a 2-player game, but occasionally it is. More often used in a 3, 4 or 5-player game. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this 0 point no Italian support card as part of a deliberate action, which means I get these 3 cards and one of them has to be played to the tableau. I'm going to play this 3, Archduke Friedrich. He's worth 3. Takes me up to 7. It's also a consensus card, meaning if I can play another one, and I know I can because I just picked this one up, which is also a consensus, then my limit, my tableau limit, is going to become 8. So that's Bechtold's turn. Now, let's pretend we are Sazonov. We've got a 3, a 4, and a 0. This 0 isn't just a 0, it lets us, has a caution ability, which means that I could I'll be able to pick up a card from the top of the deck if I play it. But, oh, one thing I didn't do was when I played that deliberate action, that means that one of the side effects of it, one of the poor side effects, is that I can only play that action once a week, so I'm going to flip this face down. Probably a sticker on the final game will make that clearer, a portrait of the diplomat. And I'm going to turn it face down and also move it to this space, meaning Bechtold is going to go last at the end of this. When this round finishes, the order is going to be rearranged, and then it's going to become second place in the initiative track. So anyway, back to Sazonov. I've got these options, but I think what I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to discard this card. I'm going to deliberate to get 3 new cards. I've got a 4, a 4, and a 3. I'm going to play this 4, Count Binkensdorf. Keep the others in my hand. So this 4 is going to take me up to 5. It also has this ability, a diplomatic back channel ability, this particular card, meaning that in this case I can place a second score tracker 1 space further up this score track. What that does is it means that it allows me to, this highest score tracker, if you have to, is always the one that you regard when it comes to prestige, but you always disregard it in terms of the amount of tension that it generates. So if you have a diplomatic back channel, a second score tracker up here, which can only be up here, up at a 26, which can only be this, you can only have a second score tracker through diplomatic back channels. If you have that token up here, well, 26 is the diplomatic pressure that you've acquired, but you haven't generated +3 tension in the same space. If your second score tracker is back here on a 21, which has a corresponding +1 tension, well, that's the amount of tension you generate, but you look at the highest score tracker for the amount of prestige. So the back channel is sort of what you might understand by that, this kind of diplomatic back channel that means that you're informally asserting yourself, but so there's no danger of triggering raising tension as a result of it, but you're still pushing your prestige. Anyway, so Sazonov took his turn. Now it's back to Bechtold, who has to figure out what to do. Now he has 4 cards in his hand. Oh, and once again, I forgot to do this. So because Sazonov also did a deliberate, he's going to be flipped over, face down, reminding us you can only do that 1 action per week. And he's going to go here, but he's in fact going to go to the bottom. So everyone is going to be, when we move to this next turn, we're going to put everyone back in order. And this I should have been moving down. It's not hard to keep track of with 2 players, but with 3 or more players it becomes important to do that. So Bechtold is going to decide what to do. He can no longer deliberate. He's done that the once he can do it in the week. He could reorganize. He could play a card from his hand. He could play a card from the deck. He's going to play a card from here, from the top of the deck. This is a 2 with a diplomatic back channel. So it's going to go from 7 to 9 with a diplomatic back channel that he's going to apply. Some of these cards, these ambassador cards that have these diplomatic back channels, abilities also let you reduce tension, but since tension's at 0 right now, we have none of these red dice out. There's no point in doing that. I'm not going to achieve anything. So now Sazonov's turn. I think he's going to do the same thing. He's got a 4 here, which is interesting because he's already got 2 assertions here. If you can get 1 more assertion out, he's going to have a good week. So now we got 4. Both of these score trackers are moved in tandem. And because Sazonov is second in the initiative track, he's actually sort of considered underneath where Bechtold is. We go back to Bechtold. His options are play from the draw deck, play from a hand, can't deliberate anymore, could reorganize. I'm not going to seize the initiative because I already have the initiative. I think I will play another card from here. It's a 2 and it's a consensus. So with 2 consensus cards, that means I'm now up to, I can play 8 cards on this tableau this week. We go to Sazonov. It's got a 3, a 4, a 4, and a 3. 2 of these are assertion cards. One of the things he wants to do is make sure that he can try and get this 4th assertion card out. That's what he's going to do. He's going to reorganize. He's going to discard a card so he can look in here, the top 3 cards, and see what he sees. Well, that's not really what he's after. There's a 1 here, a 4, which is national interest, so that's good, but he really wants an assertion, and this 0-point card, which helps him reduce tension, but there's no tension right now. So he's going to put them back in this order, and that's his turn. Back to Bechtold. He is going to discard this card, which is worth only a 0 in the first week. He's going to reorganize. It's got a 4, 2, and a 3. Perhaps I'll put this 2 at the top. I can show you how that card works. It changes value over the course of the game, depending on how many times it's played to the tableau, and that's what this is tracking here. So he reorganized. Sazonov is going to take a turn now. He's going to play this card, which he knows what that is. He knows that's a 4, and it's a national interest card, meaning he can play an additional card to his tableau during this week, if he wishes. Okay, so Bechtold. Well, I know what this card is. I decided to play it so I could show you what it is. It's an assassination investigations card. It starts with a value of 2. Next time it comes to tableau, it's going to have a value of 3. So I'm going to apply that 2 now. I'm going to move this token to show that next time it'll be worth 3. Then we're back to Sazonov. Sazonov could discard 3 cards to gain the initiative, but he's got these 2 assertion cards he doesn't really want to give away. He's going to flip this card, which is a 1, and it's a caution. Meaning he can pick up a card from his deck into his hand. So that 0-point card that we knew was there is now in his hand, which he can use. And he's at 5 cards played, but because of this national interest cards, he can play 8 this week. Back to Bechtold. So he's actually going to play this 0-point card. And one of the things is this has a caution ability. It lets him pick up a card from his deck, or he can remove an assertion card from his hand, which is what he's going to do. So he's going to go down 4 points. Which sounds sort of curious, but the reason I'm doing that is because in taking that assertion card back into my hand, I am building up the possibility that the following week I will have 4 assertion cards and I will be able to maximize my point scoring. So I'm not attempting to score an assertion card. There's only 6 assertion cards in this deck, which means it's hard to get an assertion, a set of assertion cards, a set of 4 assertion cards every week. But if you gamble on getting, if he was to gamble on getting an assertion set this week, he probably would fail. So it's a more cautious way of making sure that he will get 4 assertion cards in the following week. Anyway, now we have Sazanov's turn. He's going to discard this card to reorganize. Oh, he didn't need to do that because he's got lots of choices here. A 4, a 3, and a 3. So he's going to be able to get 4 assertion cards out this week. He's going to go high though. Okay, so now Bechtold, he's got 5 cards out. It means he can play 2 more, but because of his consensus cards, he can actually play 3 more cards. Let's flip this over and see what it is. So it's Conrad, which is not only a 4, he's the chief of staff, a particularly belligerent member of the Austro-Hungarian setup. He's not only a 4, it takes us back up here, but he's also has a national interest ability, meaning he can play an additional card to his tableau. So now we're at 5, 6, we can play 7, 8, 9. We can play 3 more cards. 1 because you can always play up to 7, an additional 1 because we've got 2 consensus, an additional 1 because we've got this national interests ability. So he's at 13 and 14. The 14 counts for prestige, the 13 counts for tension, and he can play 3 more. Let's go back to Sazonov. Well, we know that he wants to play, he's got 1 assertion card out here. He's going to flip this card, which he knows is an assertion card. He's going to be able to play, that takes him up to 4. Takes him up 4 points. So he's now at 19 prestige, but only 18 in terms of tension, which is actually just 1 tension he's going to create here. It's actually the same amount of tension you'd create here, but if you strategize correctly and you land in the right place, it will save you some tension. So he's up here, he's at 19. He's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He can play +1. He can play 2 more cards, which is what he's going to do. He's almost certainly going to play these 2. It's going to take him all the way up here. It's going to be a lot of diplomatic pressure, but it's going to be +3 tension. But it's probably worth it. That was out of sync. Okay, now back to Bechtold. I think he's just going to flip this card. It's a diplomatic back channel. It's 3 points, 1, 2, 3, 3 diplomatic pressure with a diplomatic back channel, which is going to increase this second score tracker, push that one up. Back to Sazonov, who, yep, he's going to play this 4. In fact, he probably should have played out of here. I think that was 3, he could have just saved himself some of the pain of the tension he's going to create. Back to Bechtold. You can play up to 2 more cards, but he's not going to spend these assertion cards because he's trying to save those for the following week. He's going to flip this card over. Kaiser's blank check, that's worth 4 points. It's also it's one of these cards that has conditions attached to it. So because this is now going to end up in Bechtold's permanent discard pile, because he's going to end the week with more than 14 diplomatic pressure points on this score track, this is going to end up in his permanent discard pile. And if it's joined by this Summer Harvest card, which is currently in his sort of didn't start the game in action, but it's going to be his first draw card of the following week. Once that is in his permanent discards, then it allows for the possibility that the ultimatum card could come out. It's going to come into his draw pile, which is good and bad depending on how risky he wants to do things. So this is certainly a more high-octane way of doing things. Had I been in a position to choose whether I wanted to play this card or not, and I suppose I was, but I decided to play it off of here instead of reorganizing and being sure what it was, a more cautious play would have kept that ultimatum restrained. It would have held it back for later in the game. So that just seems to be the way that I'm playing it today. So 4 points for the Kaiser. The Kaiser's blank check. Let me just check how I'm doing for points. So 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13, 16, 20, and 22. So there we are. And Sazanov's turn now. He's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He can play 1 more because of this national interest card. He is going to play this 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So he will now, next turn, have to pass. And he's going to end on 26. So Bechtold, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He can actually play 1 more card to his tableau. Again, 7 is the default. An additional 1 because he has 2 consensus, an additional 1 because he has this national interests card. So he has some choices. He could either pass, knowing that Sazonov will win the week. He will take the 3 points, and he will double those 3 because he's got 4 assertion, these red cards. He's got 4 assertion cards, so he's going to end up with 3 times 2, he's going to end up with 6 points. 6 prestige points at the end of the week. Another option Bechtold could take is to compete. He could decide he doesn't want Sazonov to take 6 points. He could actually play one of these cards, this 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. If he played this 4 card, it's an assertion, so he kind of is making it harder for himself the following week. But since he's top of the initiative track, he's going to win this week, and he's going to take the 3 points instead, and Sazanov's going to be left with just 1 point. In a 2-player game, you just get 1 point for getting 14 diplomatic pressure points or more, which he's then going to double. So that's another option. That's probably what he will do. But there's another thing that players can do, which I haven't spoken about, which is use these belligerence actions. Every player has up to 5 belligerence actions, which are tracked here, although sometimes they have fewer than 5 depending on when they choose to play these. So these actions do a couple of things. One is that they double the diplomatic pressure points of any card that you have. So if I play a 2, I will double that into a 4. If I play a 4, I will double that into an 8 up up here. But the consequence of that is that it will drive the tension up to a minimum level. So in this case, tension's at 0. The tension that Austria-Hungary is applying on Russia is at 0, and the belligerence total is at 0. Since they're both at 0, what would happen is this would increase to 1, the belligerence track increases to 1, goes up 1 level, and the tension would become the minimum possible. It can never de-escalate below that level for the rest of the game. So that would be one option. Now, why would you do that other than making sure that you win the week because you double? You also score prestige points if you win. If you play a belligerence action in the week, 1 or more doesn't matter. You gain 1 prestige point. If you play a belligerence action in the week and you fail to win, you're going to lose 1 prestige. So maybe you're tracking what I'm saying, that he could play this 2, double that to a 4, play it as a belligerence action, in which case, so this 2 means that he'd be up here on 26, which would be the same as Sazonov, but because he's higher on the initiative track, that means that Bechtold would win the week, and he would get 3 points for winning the week. He'd also get 4 points, an additional 1 point, so 3 plus 1 for being on the initiative track. If he played that 2 as a belligerence action, that would be 3 plus 1 plus 1. That'd be 5 points. But maybe he won't do that because it's nice to play belligerence actions when you are going to double them, when you're playing them with 4 or more assertion cards out. So maybe what he'll just do is he'll play this 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, not play it as a belligerence action, and be done. Sazonov has to pass. Then we're back to Bechtold, who now has to pass. And then we decide, then we figure out the scoring. So we can see that Bechtold wins the week. He's highest on here. Like I said, these are equal, but he's on the top of the initiative track. So 3 points for winning, having the most diplomatic pressure up here, plus 1 for being top of the initiative track. He's going to create 4 prestige, so those are victory points. We look at the tension, but we ignore this highest one, which would be plus 3 tension. He's actually going to create just plus 2 tension. That's tension that he's applying onto Russia. Bechtold, well, in a 3, 4 or 5 player game, then if you come second, you get 2 points. In a 2 player game, you don't. He's just going to get 1 point for having 14 or higher, but not winning. So he's going to get 1 point of prestige. Nothing for being lower, being not at the top. He did have 4 assertion cards, so that's going to be doubled to 2. Perhaps what he should have done in retrospect was use one of these cards to as a belligerence action to get himself even higher up here, but then there are consequences in terms of how much tension he's creating. So the amount of tension he creates is, well, it would be plus 3, but we ignore this higher score marker, we only look at this one. Actually, turns out that's also on a plus 3. It's staggered. So he's actually going to create 3 tension on Austria-Hungary, which you can see is sort of curious because Austria-Hungary drove the prestige up higher, drove the diplomatic pressure up higher, at least equal, but because of the other scoring mechanisms, this initiative track, because he won, he's actually created more prestige but less tension. So 4 prestige and 2 tension versus 2 prestige and now 3 tension. If we were playing with a third player, Germany, this tension would sort of drop down. This German tension would have to be at least half of this, no fraction, so this would become 1 tension that's applying to Germany, taking Germany closer to being provoked. So that would be the scoring. Then we would acquire new cards. You can have up to You can have up to 6 in your hand, no more. Bechtold is going to draw 3 cards, because you always draw 3 unless you're at hand limit. Sazonov has 1, so he's going to pick up 3. He's going to be at now 4 cards in his hand. And we're going to move this track along to week 2. We're going to start week 2 in a moment. There are different kinds of discard piles, so most of the time they are recycled. They're going to go into this recycled pile here, which means we will shuffle them into the draw pile when we need them. This card was a permanent discard, this Kaiser's blank check, which encourages Austria-Hungary to be belligerent. The first card from the draw week is going to be this 0-point card, this Summer Harvest Leave, which constrains the Austrians, their sort of possible actions. Flip these up. This is a very specific card that must be used as the first draw card on this occasion. They happen rarely. And then Russia's top cards would be, well, we'd have to sort these out. These all go to recycles. And Russia's first card would be this. You know, these are obviously, like I said, prototype. There's lots of scrawlings and additional things written on them. So, because tension is 1 or higher, this Rasputin card, there's going to be an assassination attempt on him. The tension that Austria-Hungary is applying on Russia kind of filters into Russian domestic politics, at least in the minds of the lunatic who is attempting to assassinate Rasputin. So anyway, he's a 0 as it is, but he also causes Sazonov to discard a card. And perhaps he'll discard this Tsar card, which can be problematic anyway. So that's the first round. Into the beginning of the second round. I think I will pause it there. I hope that was of some use. I'm now going to find out if the sound actually worked. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Thank you.